The current state of politics in the UK is fraught with dangerous rhetoric and populist policies that threaten the very fabric of democratic values and social welfare. Take, for instance, Keir Starmer's blistering critique of Nigel Farage and Reform UK, which is not only timely but necessary. Farage, with his reckless brand of politics, represents everything that is wrong with the contemporary right-wing populist agenda. His toxic policies and the party he leads are attempting to poison the political discourse, with a disdain for the working-class values that should define any legitimate political party. What is more alarming, however, is the growing influence of his dangerous narrative, an influence that, if left unchecked, could undermine the progress this country has painstakingly made in securing basic rights and protections for its citizens. Let's be clear about what Farage and Reform UK are actually doing. They are not fighting for the rights of workers or defending the sovereignty of this nation. They are undermining the very protections that have been fought for and won over decades. Farage and his followers cloak themselves in the language of patriotism and populism, but their actions tell a different story. When given the chance to vote on critical pieces of legislation like the Employment Rights Bill, they voted against it. They voted against banning the abhorrent practice of fire and rehire, against eliminating exploitative zero-hour contracts, against paid sick leave and maternity pay, policies that the working people of this country depend on. Farage's rhetoric is nothing more than empty promises that are designed to win votes, while his actions reveal his true disregard for the most vulnerable in our society. Starmer's comments hit the nail on the head. Farage is perpetuating dangerous policies that threaten to unravel the very protections that workers rely on to survive. To make matters worse, Farage and his party have embraced a kind of political opportunism that panders to the most dangerous elements of the far right, all while painting themselves as champions of the common man. It's a fraud, an insult to the hard-working people of this country who have been betrayed by politicians who talk a big game but fail to act when it matters most. But the damage does not stop at economic policies. Farage's flirtation with Putin is not just a diplomatic misstep. It is a blatant disregard for the national security of the United Kingdom and the global values of freedom and democracy. To see someone who purports to be a leader of the British people stand by and offer tacit approval of a dictator who has waged war against a sovereign nation is nothing short of a betrayal. Farage's fawning over Putin should be condemned in the strongest terms, as it is an affront to everything this country stands for. It should not be allowed to slide by unnoticed, nor should it be swept under the rug by those who would rather turn a blind eye in the name of political expediency. Let's face it, Reform UK is not the party of the working class. It is the party of self-interest, of corporate greed, and of a misguided nationalism that values sovereignty over solidarity. The real patriotism, the kind that works for every citizen, does not come from supporting divisive figures or passing dangerous policies that prey on the weakest members of society. True patriotism is about ensuring that the fundamental rights of all people are upheld and that the next generation inherits a fairer, more just society. This is where Farage and Reform UK fail spectacularly. Their focus is on self-promotion. Their leaders are too busy trying to secure their own political power to care about the real struggles faced by working people in the UK. It is also worth noting that the success of any political party hinges on its ability to maintain a credible vision for the future. Farage Reform UK is nothing more than a house of cards built on populist promises and rhetoric, with no real solutions to the issues at hand. If they were truly committed to making the UK a better place for working people, they would focus on policies that directly benefit the nation's economy and public services. But instead, they have chosen to stand in opposition to every measure that would benefit the most vulnerable in our society. This isn't leadership, this is opportunism at its worst. The lack of a coherent policy agenda and the dangerous alliances Farage has built only expose the hollowness at the heart of his party. The fact that he is willing to trade away the fundamental rights of the people in exchange for political expediency is unforgivable. It is time for the British electorate to see through the thin veneer of populism and recognize that the future of this country cannot be entrusted to individuals who have demonstrated time and time again that their interests lie not with the people, but with their own self-serving agenda. Farage's rhetoric has no place in a modern, forward-thinking political discourse. It is time to confront the fact that his dangerous policies will never benefit the working people of the UK. Farage and Reform UK should not be allowed to lead this country into a future that values corporate profit over human rights. The stakes are far too high for us to sit back and allow this toxic, divisive brand of politics to gain traction. We must stand firm in our commitment to policies that protect workers, defend human rights, and reject the rhetoric of hate and division that Farage and his followers so eagerly promote. If we do not, we risk losing everything we have worked for. And that is a risk no responsible citizen should be willing to take.